Hey guys, it's Tasha, and today is my 37th birthday. So I thought I would do a video about lessons that I have learned while I was 36. Hi, I'm Tasha with One Big Happy Life, and we make videos about how to find balance, build wealth, and live happy. Everything that you need to create the life that you want. So if you're new around here, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single video. So in today's video is a solo video that is just me today, just talking about and reflecting on the past year number 36 in my life. And it's been every year just feels like so many big things happen. And so I just really am excited about this opportunity to reflect with you and to share kind of some of the big takeaways that happened for me over this past year. I would say number one, and like the biggest thing, is that you can change your mind about what you want to be when you grow up, like at any time. And that's really applicable for me because over this past year, the 36th year, I decided that I was going to leave my career as a lawyer, something that it took me, let's say, almost 10 years to get to, that I was going to go ahead and leave that career and actually become an entrepreneur and be self-employed and run my own company. And that I went back and forth so much with making that decision. And part of that was just kind of like, oh, well, I had worked all this time to become a lawyer. I had all this student loan debt, and it just seemed crazy, this idea that I would actually leave all of that behind and become an entrepreneur. And it's like, I don't have a background in business. At no point did I ever think that I would be someone that ran a company, that had employees, that had customers. So it took a lot of kind of mindset work and just kind of inner work, just thinking about, well, who am I? Who do I want to be? What do I want my life to look like, in order for me to reach that point where I felt comfortable saying, guess what? Like, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I could be a lawyer. I love being a lawyer. I love the kind of work that I do as a lawyer. I really enjoy it, but I love this more. Like, I really, really enjoy it. And I would love to see myself being an entrepreneur, growing One Big Happy Life in all its, like, we have so many plans for it. And so it took a bit for me to accept that it's okay for me to decide that I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. And part of it was just, you spend so long trying to become this thing, right? Because it took 4 years of undergrad, like 5 years of undergrad, really, and then 3 years of law school. And then I've been working as a lawyer for 8 years now. And that becomes kind of wrapped up in your identity and, how you present yourself to the world. And so it was really challenging to do that sort of mental shift from lawyer to now entrepreneur of a fledgling business, right? Because One Big Happy Life is still less than 3 years old. So it's still a very, very young business. But once I came to terms with this idea that I could change my mind about what I wanted to be when I grow up, and it's okay for me to do a certain thing and pursue that, and then pivot and do something else over the course of my lifetime, multiple times over the course of my lifetime, and that is totally okay. It was really liberating. So if you haven't seen the video that we posted about me deciding to quit my job, I'll drop that down in the description box. And then my last day at work will be August 30th, which I've already announced on Instagram. And if you're not following us there, you should go ahead and go over there. But I'm going to be talking a lot more about entrepreneurship here on One Big Happy Life. And over on Instagram, I'm going to do like my first 30 days of being an entrepreneur in the stories over there on Instagram. So go check that out and follow us over there so that you can follow along on that journey, because it'll be really, really interesting. The second thing I learned during 36 is that time is way more valuable than money. And that was 36 was is a had been has been a challenging year because we were pushing to really grow our business and time got really, really short. This is the least amount of time and free time and time to just do things for fun that I've ever had in my entire life, including back when I was a single mom, either when Alexis was a baby or right after law school after I got divorced. Like I had even less time now than I did then as a single parent. And it's because I was pouring so much into One Big Happy Life because I wanted to focus on growing it well, growing it in a way that would provide me with a sustainable income, right? Because I wasn't looking to leave my job and then just have Joseph support me, even though, yes, his income is enough to support our family. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to build a business that was replacing my income. And so that's what I've been pouring myself over, especially this year, growing One Big Happy Life to a multiple six-figure business. And because of that, that is where we really started to feel that time crunch because I helped out around the house less, which meant it fell on more and more of it fell on Joseph, which also meant, I mean, there's only so much one person can do caring for a family of four and also working a full-time job. And so it got to the point where we started using our money to buy back our time. And it made such a huge difference in our day-to-day lives. And so it used to be that we would just like our back staircase needed the stairs were rotten and they needed to be replaced. Well, that would be a DIY project that Joseph and I would tackle together. And we do enjoy DIY projects, but the reality is that we are just not at a stage in our lives right now where we have the time to put into those DIY projects, right? We would rather spend that time in a different way, which meant that but we did have the money to put towards having someone else complete the project for us. And I have to say, as much as I love DIY projects, I also absolutely loved just being able to hire a professional to come and do the work for us, that it was done well, and that I didn't have to think about it beyond actually finding the professional and selecting them. I didn't have to do any of that work or devote any of that time. And so it got me thinking even more about how we all tend to want to use time so that we can save money. But the truth is that time is our most valuable resource. We all have a finite amount of time, and the amount of time we have is fixed. Not just time today in a day, but time in your life. And so the question is, how do you want to spend that time? And so for me, I would rather spend my time doing work that I love that also allows me to make an income, to use money to buy back some of my time. And so that has been a focus, not just for me, but also Joseph. And just coming to that realization that my time is more valuable than my money has really been liberating and allowed us to start looking at money in a very different way. And so now time is not a substitute for money anymore. Like now money is a substitute for time, and I like it better, a lot better that way. The third lesson that I learned in 36 is that we don't always have tomorrow. And that's a great segue from what I was just talking about just now about time being more valuable than money. So we experienced two deaths personally, and then also a friend of ours had someone very close to her pass away unexpectedly. And so one of the deaths, which you guys may have heard us speak about already, was our nanny Susie passed away unexpectedly. We saw her on Friday, and then by Tuesday she had passed. And it was sudden, it was unexpected, and it was devastating. And it was the first time for any of us that we had experienced the loss of someone that was a part of our daily lives. I mean, Susie had been with us for 2 years, and we would see her, every day, and she cared for our son. And so it was so heartbreaking and so profound, right? And it made me stop and ask myself, what am I doing with my life? Like, am I living every single day the way I want it to look? Or am I living today hoping for a better tomorrow? And that is kind of what really lit the fire in me to switch over to entrepreneurship, because I found that I enjoyed being an entrepreneur more than I enjoyed being an attorney. And so, but I kept kind of straddling that fence between the two because I was afraid of leaving behind the security of being a lawyer, of leaving behind my identity of being a lawyer to go do something I had never done before. Like, I was scared and nervous to leave behind a sure thing for a maybe thing. But when Susie passed, like, it really made me realize, like, and really feel how important it is to live your life fully every day, because you just never know what day is going to be your last day. So that was like just really hit home for me in 36. So I just really wanted to share that lesson with you. Lesson number 4. Having it all does not mean always having perfect balance. And I've talked openly about this on the channel over the course of this year. This year has not been a year of balance for us at all. With the business growing and working to grow the business, which we've been really successful at, but it just meant that it used to be that we would film like a couple of hours on the weekends and then that would be it for the rest of the week. Like, yeah, we'd pop in and do comments, but One Big Happy Life wasn't taking up all of our time. Well, to grow it into a full-fledged business, well, it basically started taking up all of our time outside of our day jobs. And there was no balance there. And we were all getting burned out, like all 3 of us. But the finish line was in sight, right? We had a particular project that we were working on. We launched our new program, Wealth Builders Academy. And once that launch was complete, then we were able to ease back and bring back in the parts of our lives that had kind of fallen to the wayside, like working out and meal prepping. And so I just say all this to say that, yes, it was a challenging 3 months while we were growing and launching and building Wealth Builders Academy. But now that it's there, now that it's done, we can take a step back and find that balance again. So yes, we are able to work full time, have a multiple 6-figure business, have a family, have a puppy, travel, but it doesn't mean that we're able to do everything equally well at all times, and that is okay. It's just important that we understand when we're on a certain pace that it's not sustainable, and make sure that we have plans in place to have it be a firm deadline when it's like, okay, we're going to work really hard on this, but then it's going to end and, things are going to mellow out. And that's another reason, though, why we've decided that I'm going to leave my job and focus on One Big Happy Life full time so that I can get stuff done during the workday. And then when my workday's over, I'm done. I'm not doing shift number 2 on One Big Happy Life after I've worked a full day. And so it's all about finding your way back to that balance, but understanding that there might be periods of time in your life where you're not perfectly balanced, and that's okay too. Lesson number 5 is letting go of what you think a good life should look like, and instead focusing on what you really want out of your life. And this has hit home for me in many ways. Like, obviously, I've already talked about switching from being a lawyer over to being an entrepreneur, and which was challenging because, again, like, my career was set. My career was like on cruise control. And it was, I had a 6-figure job. I was getting paid really well doing work that I love. That is the idea of success, right? But it's not what I wanted. But it was still hard to kind of like shed that, that expectation, right, of what a good life is supposed to look like. But the other thing that really hit this home for me over this past year wasn't even about my life, but more about Alexis's life, because Alexis decided, instead of going back to high school as a junior, she left and went to college as a freshman while technically being homeschooled. And that meant that she had to let go of this vision of what her life was supposed to look like as a teenager. That meant she wasn't going to go to prom, no more homecomings. Like, she was going to miss out on what are supposed to be like stereotypical good life things that you experience as a teenager. But once she was able to let go of those things and recognize that while yes, it would have been nice to go to prom, she didn't want to have to do what it took to do that, which is to stick it out in a high school that she didn't like, doing work that didn't challenge her. When she was able to let that go, she has been so much happier now that she's at a community college and taking college classes and has college friends and has the freedom to schedule her own schedule and do what she wants throughout the day. And she has 2 years of her life back, right? Because she would have been, if she had followed a typical path, then she would have graduated from high school at 18 and college at 22. But now she's graduating from community college at 18, and then her 4-year degree, she should be graduating at 20. So that's 2 extra years that she gets to do whatever she feels like. She's free to travel, she's free to do whatever. And that's incredible because she was able to let go of these preconceived notions about what a good life should look like. And the 6th lesson, and probably the most important lesson that I have finally come to terms with at 36, is that it's not supposed to be easy. And if you guys have been following this channel for any time, then you know that once upon a time I was a single teen mom. And I was not making much money. I was making, less than $20,000 a year and trying to figure out this whole like being an adult thing and raising a child and actually surviving and then thriving, right? So it has been a challenge all these years to go from being a single mom to going through putting myself through college, to putting myself through law school, to going through a divorce and struggling to conceive. And I used to spend so much time being so upset about how hard it was for me and how easy everyone else's life looked. And that, like, the people who had financial help from their parents, or who had parents who would watch their children, or, like any of that kind of stuff that would make life kind of a little bit easier, I would spend too much time just feeling so sad that my life hadn't been easier and feeling so frustrated that life felt so hard. But at 36, I finally came to realize that it's not supposed to be easy. Like, even if it's easy, that means that I'm not challenging myself, right? So now, when objectively, the challenges that I used to have, I don't have anymore, right? I don't have to worry about money. I have a good career. My children are all healthy. Like, I'm healthy. I have a great partner that is wonderfully supportive in all aspects of our lives. There's nothing about my life that is objectively hard, but there are still challenges, right? And so, like, we're not able to get pregnant easily. We're doing IVF. IVF has not been going well. It's been hard. Like, they've retrieved at this point, like, something like 80 eggs, 90 eggs, and we only have 1 embryo. And so many people have commented, because I've been documenting this mostly on Instagram, how positively, and how upbeat I am about it. And it's just because I just don't expect things to be easy. I expect there to be challenges. There will always be challenges when you're trying to do something that just doesn't come naturally. That's a normal part of growing and living. And so once I accepted that, which I really, really did at 36, I expect now things to come up. I expect to have to work around things. But at the end of the day, it's my life and I want to live it fully. So regardless of what comes up, my job is to do the best that I can to get around that thing, to get what I want, right? Because that's the only thing that is in my control, how I react and how I show up in my life every day. I can't make it easy, but I can still do the thing anyway. And that is what matters, right? Living my life on my terms is what matters. It's not about life being easy. So that has probably been the lesson, my favorite lesson that I've learned at 36, to just accept that it's going to be challenging. Challenge is good. It's going to be scary. Scary is good. And I can do things even though I feel scared, even though it's challenging, I can do it all. So I hope that these lessons have helped you and motivated you in your own life. And I would love to hear some of the lessons that you've learned in your life over the past year down in the comments. All right, see you in the next video. Bye.